Hello there.
Hello.
Would you like a ride?
Yes, please. Hi, Mr. Duck. Hi, Duck and Chicky. I know.
You might wonder what we're doing out here after dark. Some friends of ours in the area have asked them to take care of their chickens and a duck while they're away for a while. So we're gonna do this after dark, just put them in their pen and close things up, and then open their pen up in the morning every single day for about a week. Yeah.
Good chickens. There we go.
So what we do is we just make sure that their water is full. They have some feed in there that we fill up.
And we close up their coop at night and then open it back up in the morning.
Yeah, pretty easy.
Yep.
Pretty easy.
Especially for us city folk who have never done anything with chickens before.
Oh, and by the way, I showed you this in one of our previous videos, but look at that fire in the Chiricahua Mountains. Oh boy, it's wildfire season.
It is. You should see the one going on in Tucson right now. It's crazy on the Catalinas. Looks like something out of a horror film. So for those of you who are not necessarily familiar with the plants of the desert of southeastern Arizona, which is where we live, we don't have
a high desert.
We are
About
in the high desert.
4,500 feet.
4,500 feet, yeah. So we're not the saguaros and things you may see from like Tucson because they're lower than us and we get a little too cold for that. But we do have a lot of mesquites, which we also have in Tucson. But they grow wild here and they're pretty, but they have a lot of purpose to them too, which I'm super excited about. So they just leaved up and then had these beautiful like flowery pod thingies. You can kind of see some of them here that are still left. And then the cool thing that's happening right now is we're starting to get the bean or seed pods, which are these green guys right here. And why that is neat is because you can eat these, not right now, but in a couple months, these are going to dry out and turn like almost like papery, and you'll actually be able to rattle them and hear the beans inside. And at that point you can eat them like they are. You can chew on the pod, you can chew on the seed. You just have to be careful because there's a pit inside that could actually break your teeth, but they're sweet. Or you could take them and you can dry them out and you can make flour for like mesquite pancakes, which are delicious, gluten-free as well, so I can eat them. You can make like a roasted coffee, you can make a tea, and you can even make jam, which I have never done or never tried, but I'm super excited to try this year by drying them out, making juice out of them with water, and then canning them into jam. So later in the summer, I'll be watching for these guys to dry out and get to the point where I can harvest them, and I'm sure I'll take you along because we have a lot of mesquite. Pretty much every bush or tree on our property is a mesquite tree. And I think there's a few different kinds of mesquites, which I didn't know. I think they're velvet mesquite. That seems to be the kind that is prevalent in this area. Honey mesquite is considered the sweetest. Velvet mesquite is very similar. And then there's some other kind of mesquite that they often plant in Tucson and places that doesn't actually taste as good, apparently. But luckily, we have the good tasting kind, from what I can tell, because our pods are nice and straight. And so we will find out once we can actually start making products.
Mesquite, 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 mesquite. All these are mesquites. Let's turn around. Mesquite, 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 mesquite. Oh man.
So this is the first time mesquite has been exciting for Steve, because when we got here, you may remember that Steve cleared some of our land and he had to rip up a few mesquites that were not in good areas. And mesquites have huge root systems because of the fact that we're in the desert.
Yeah,
so,
these roots are probably out at least to here.
Well, yeah, they're like twice the size of the mesquite on the top is like what it is underneath, is what I've heard. And so, yeah, there was some fun with the tractor trying to pull those suckers out.
Fun is one word for it.
But now we can use the mesquites and live off our land, which is kind of neat.
What's going on out here?
We're waiting to go on our walk to feed the chickens.
To feed the chickens? Well, let's do it. What do you think, Penny?
You want to feed chickens?
You just want to go for your walks.
Yeah. We are smelling that fire from the Chiricahuas because the wind switched directions and now it's coming at us from the east, and that's where the Chiricahuas are in relation to us. You know, you would think that with everything going on, like the pandemic and the stock market craziness and things like that, that people wouldn't be buying stuff like land and houses and things like that. But land out here, we've heard, is selling like hot cakes. Easy for me to say this early in the morning. And I could only guess the reason is people are maybe developing an appreciation for living outside of the city or away from as many people maybe. I don't know exactly what the reason is, but once again, we feel so incredibly thankful that we bought when we did. It was completely dumb luck, but hey, we'll take it. We'll take it. Look at the size of some of these mesquite roots, and this is above the ground. I would need a huge tractor with a huge backhoe to get this thing out of the ground, and even then, that would not be easy. But luckily, we're not planning to. Most of you know that we're morning people, which is good, because this time of the year in southern Arizona, it gets warm awfully quickly. So we're walking the dogs by about 6:15 in the morning. 6:15 in the morning. Of course, today it's actually kind of chilly, but usually it's warm, so we have to get this walk in early. Somebody asked me, how do I get up? You guys get up early. It seems to work for you. I can't seem to get, I just can't do it. I can't get up early. I'm not a morning person. How do I do that? And my answer is very simple. Go to bed earlier.
Having light helps too, though.
We're in bed. We are in bed by about 8:30. Lights out around 9 because we read for about a half hour. Well, I read about a half hour. She reads about an hour. So she goes to bed slightly earlier than I do. But that's the key. That's the key. Just go to bed earlier. You'll get tired earlier. You'll get up earlier. It's all a cycle.
And it helps in the summer. It's much easier to do in the summer because light will help you get up. And so we have our windows open and don't close our blinds so that we get all the sunlight in the morning, which makes it a lot easier to get out of bed.
Yeah, we're like cavemen and women. We get tired when the sun goes down. We wake up when the sun comes up. It works for us. And I have another pro tip for you in regards to getting up. Even when we don't have full-time jobs now, so it's easy for us to say, but even when we were working full-time, we never had major schedule changes on the weekend. So for work, you might get up at 6:30 or 7 to get into work, come home at 4:30 or 5, do that Monday through Friday, then sleep until 10 or 11 on Saturday and Sunday, and then have to get up on Monday morning way earlier than you were the last 2 days. So what we always tried to do is we maintained a very similar schedule. We got up, we might have slept in an extra 30 minutes or something, but the weekend wasn't that big of a change. So it made our circadian rhythm a little bit more manageable that way. And that was another thing that worked for us.
And if you do end up staying up late on a weekend night, because that's what you hear a lot is well, I stay up really late on the weekend with friends. We would still get up early and then we take a nap. So there are ways to still get your sleep back in, but still get up at the same time so your body's used to it. That's what works for us.
That was a strange angle to hold the camera. But yes, naps are never a bad thing. You see him? Oh, he went back there somewhere. Where'd he go, Penny? Where'd he go? You'll see in certain areas out here along dirt roads, this is a creek that runs underneath the road. At one point, these culverts were not here, so one person who lives just up the road paid somebody to put them in so water can rush underneath the road rather than on top of the road.
Still sometimes rushes on top.
Yes, because when monsoons come, which are torrential rains, they will wash out this road and make it completely impassable.
Yep.
Unless you have something like that to help direct the water.
Exactly. And even still, if it's a really big monsoon, it will come over these culverts. So
That it will.
if there's a really heavy rain, often people can't get home because of the washes running. So it's a very interesting time of year to be in the desert.
One of the most interesting things about living in the desert is there are two things that can kill you in the desert. And that's a drought, and that's also a flood. Strangely enough, a flash flood happens all the time, especially when you're in like canyons or something where you don't see it, or the storm could be 50 miles away, 100 miles away, and these gushing torrents of water will come down valleys and streams just like that. And if you're not prepared for them and you don't have an escape, then flash flooding is a huge problem in the West, especially the desert Southwest, which I found very interesting. Droughts and floods.
Of course, those are not the only two things that can kill you in the desert. We also have rattlesnakes and all sorts of things that want to sting you and bite you.
Okay, the two natural disaster kind of
There you go.
things.
Weather related.
Yes. Penny, it's gonna take forever if you keep sniffing. Oh, well, that's it for this video. We will see you next time out here in the desert. I will leave you with some chicken video. Video of chickens. Of us taking care of chickens.
Look at all the quail.
It's a new learning experience for us. It's a bunch of quail just fly off into the distance.
Good morning, girls. Hello.
Come on. He just pecked my camera.